In 2010, a disturbing video began spreading through obscure corners of the internet. At first, almost nobody paid attention to it. It was shared on small forums and hidden communities where shocking content appeared every day. But the people who watched this one immediately felt that something was different. It wasn't just the video itself that disturbed them. It was the person behind the camera. Everything felt calculated. The framing, the pacing, the way the footage was presented, it all seemed designed to attract attention. Whoever uploaded it didn't simply want to shock people, he wanted to be seen. And before long, strangers across the internet became obsessed with finding him. Not police investigators, not journalists. Ordinary people sitting behind computer screens late at night, replaying blurry footage frame by frame while searching for clues hidden in the background. They analyzed wall sockets, furniture, cigarette packs, vacuum cleaners, anything that could reveal where the video had been recorded and who the man behind the camera really was. At first, the entire thing sounded ridiculous. A group of anonymous internet users believed they could track down a dangerous criminal using nothing but screenshots and forum posts. And slowly, the internet investigators realized something terrifying. The man they were searching for wanted this attention. He wasn't hiding from the internet, he was performing for it. As the investigation grew larger, the videos became darker, more disturbing, and increasingly violent. The people tracking him online became convinced they were witnessing escalation in real time, and many of them desperately tried to warn authorities before something worse happened. But most of them were ignored. To police, it looked like another internet conspiracy fueled by anonymous users with too much time on their hands. But the people investigating knew they were dealing with someone dangerous, someone who was carefully building an audience while pushing further and further into violence. And then, in 2012, the world suddenly learned the name Luka Magnotta. What followed was an international manhunt involving Interpol, global media coverage, and one of the most disturbing murder investigations in modern internet history. But the strangest part of this story is that long before authorities fully understood the threat, the internet had already figured out who he was. Luka Magnotta was born Eric Clinton Newman in 1982 in Scarborough, Ontario, a district just outside Toronto. By most accounts, his early life was unstable. His parents separated when he was young, and the environment around him was often described as chaotic and emotionally volatile. Friends and relatives would later describe a childhood filled with tension, conflict, and isolation, the kind of environment that can leave deep psychological scars long before anyone notices the damage. As he got older, Luka became obsessed with appearance, status, and attention. People who knew him during his teenage years often described him as someone who constantly reinvented himself. He changed his look repeatedly, experimented with different identities, and seemed deeply uncomfortable with who he actually was. Even before he became infamous online, there were signs that he desperately wanted recognition. In the early 2000s, he started appearing online under different names and personas. He worked various jobs, including as an escort and adult performer, while trying to build an image of himself as wealthy, attractive, and important. But behind that image was someone living a very different reality. Former acquaintances later described him as isolated and deeply insecure. He reportedly struggled financially for years, moving between apartments, relying on short-term work, and spending enormous amounts of time online. But despite this instability, he remained obsessed with fame, and not normal fame. He wanted the kind of attention where strangers talked about him constantly, where people became fascinated by him, where his image spread across the internet. At one point, Luka even began creating fake online rumors about himself. Investigators and journalists later discovered dozens of accounts across forums and websites that appeared to be operated by him personally. These accounts posted exaggerated stories claiming he was dating wealthy models, working with famous photographers, or living a glamorous lifestyle. Sometimes the lies were bizarre. On certain forums, anonymous users claimed Luka was involved with powerful celebrities or wealth-based businessmen. Other posts described him as a rising model with an extravagant international lifestyle. But when people looked closer, the stories rarely made sense. Many of the accounts writing about Luka seemed strangely obsessed with him, almost like fan accounts created by someone trying to artificially manufacture fame, because that's exactly what was happening. Long before TikTok algorithms and influencer culture turned online attention into currency, Luka Magnotta understood something important about the internet. If you create enough noise around yourself, people eventually start paying attention, even if the attention is negative. By the late 2000s, he had become increasingly active online. He uploaded photo shoots, edited videos of himself, and constantly searched for ways to push his image further into public view. He appeared on reality television briefly, including a short appearance connected to a dating show, but nothing gave him the fame he wanted, and that failure seemed to affect him deeply. People who interacted with Luka online noticed that he appeared obsessed with notoriety. He monitored discussions about himself constantly. He searched his own name online. He argued with strangers in forums and sometimes responded aggressively to criticism. There was a growing sense that he wasn't just trying to become famous anymore. He was becoming consumed by the need for attention itself. At the same time, his online behavior was becoming increasingly disturbing. Around 2010, internet users began noticing anonymous accounts posting strange and unsettling content connected to Luka. Some of the accounts uploaded cryptic messages and edited videos featuring dramatic music, movie clips, and references to violence. Others posted long, rambling comments defending him or portraying him as misunderstood. There was something theatrical about everything he did. He seemed fascinated by serial killers, fame, and media attention. According to people who later investigated his online footprint, Luka appeared obsessed with films like Basic Instinct and Catch Me If You Can. He idolized the idea of becoming a mysterious public figure whose name spread through newspapers, television, and the internet. And slowly, people online started realizing that Luka wasn't simply seeking validation. He wanted infamy. This became especially obvious when disturbing videos involving animal abuse began appearing online. The footage spread rapidly across forums and triggered outrage from viewers around the world. But what shocked people wasn't only the cruelty of the videos, it was the way they were filmed. The person behind the camera clearly wanted attention. The videos were edited carefully, often using music, staging, and dramatic presentation to maximize emotional impact. And almost immediately, online communities became obsessed with identifying the man responsible. That investigation would eventually become one of the internet's first large-scale online manhunts. At first, Luka denied everything. Various accounts linked to him claimed he was being framed, harassed, or falsely accused by internet vigilantes. But as online investigators dug deeper, more connections began appearing between him and the videos. People started comparing furniture, bedding, wall patterns, and objects visible in the background of the footage to photos Luka had uploaded online himself. Others traced usernames, email addresses, and fake profiles connected to him across multiple websites. And the deeper they looked, the stranger things became. Many investigators later believed Luka was intentionally leaving clues behind. Not enough to immediately expose himself, but enough to keep people interested. It was almost like a game. He appeared to enjoy watching strangers discuss him online. In some cases, fake accounts connected to Luka allegedly entered conversations directly, taunting investigators or defending him, while pretending to be random users. The line between performance and reality was becoming increasingly blurred. And while thousands of people online became convinced that Luka represented a serious danger, authorities largely failed to take the situation seriously. Part of the problem was that internet investigations still felt new at the time. Today, crowdsourced investigations and online detectives are common, but in 2010, most police agencies viewed anonymous internet forums as unreliable and chaotic. To many investigators, the people obsessively tracking Luka online looked more like conspiracy theorists than credible witnesses. But the internet communities following the case believed they were watching someone escalate toward something far worse. And what terrified them most was the possibility that the attention itself was encouraging him. Every repost, every discussion thread, every news article, it all fed directly into the thing Luka seemed to crave more than anything else: recognition. For years, he had tried to become famous through modeling, television, and fake online personas. None of it worked. But now, for the first time in his life, thousands of people around the world suddenly knew his name, and the attention was only growing. By 2011, the online investigation surrounding Luka Magnotta had grown far beyond a few niche forums. Thousands of people were now following the case across Reddit, Facebook groups, and websites dedicated to identifying the man behind the disturbing videos. What started as a small internet investigation had slowly turned into an obsession, and the people involved began noticing something deeply unsettling. Luka appeared to be watching them back. Fake accounts connected to him allegedly started appearing inside discussion threads. Some defended him aggressively. Others mocked the investigators directly. In certain cases, anonymous users posted cryptic messages that seemed designed to provoke fear and confusion. The deeper the internet dug into Luka's online presence, the more it felt like they were interacting with someone who enjoyed the attention. It was almost theatrical. Every video seemed more carefully staged than the last. The editing became more dramatic. The presentation became more polished. Music was added. Movie references appeared throughout the footage. Investigators later discovered that Luka idolized films centered around fame, manipulation, and criminal notoriety, and many people began believing he was actively modeling himself after fictional characters. But despite the growing panic online, authorities still appeared hesitant to treat the situation as a major threat. Part of the problem was the nature of the internet itself. The investigation was scattered across anonymous forums, Facebook pages, and message boards filled with speculation, false leads, and amateur detective work. To outside observers, it looked chaotic. But inside those communities, certain individuals became incredibly organized. One Facebook group in particular became central to the investigation. Members spent countless hours analyzing every detail visible in the videos. They examined electrical outlets to identify countries. They compared furniture to online product catalogs. They studied shadows, clothing, and reflections hidden in mirrors. At times, the investigation felt less like a group of random strangers and more like a decentralized intelligence operation. And slowly, the clues kept pointing back to Luka Magnotta. Then the situation escalated again. In 2011, another disturbing video appeared online. By now, many investigators believed they were witnessing a dangerous progression. Luka didn't seem satisfied with simply shocking people anymore. The videos were becoming more extreme, and the online communities following the case became increasingly convinced that violence against humans was only a matter of time. Some members desperately tried contacting law enforcement agencies, animal protection groups, and journalists, but many felt ignored. Authorities often struggled to act because much of the evidence originated from anonymous internet users spread across multiple countries. And without a major criminal investigation already underway, there was little urgency. But while police hesitated, Luka's notoriety continued growing online. News outlets started covering the bizarre internet manhunt. More people discovered the case. More users joined forums dedicated to tracking him. And ironically, every article warning about Luka also gave him exactly what he appeared to want most: attention. Then, in May 2012, everything changed. A video titled "One Lunatic, One Ice Pick" appeared online. Unlike the earlier videos, this one immediately triggered international panic. Internet users, who had spent years tracking Luka, suddenly realized their worst fears had become reality. The escalation they had warned about for months had finally happened. Around the same time, a gruesome package containing human remains was mailed to political offices and schools in Canada. Soon after, authorities identified the victim as June Lin, a student living in Montreal. Suddenly, the online investigation that many people had dismissed as internet hysteria became a full-scale international manhunt, and Luka Magnotta disappeared. Within hours, his name spread across global news networks. Canadian authorities launched a nationwide search while Interpol issued an international notice. Photos of Luka appeared everywhere: television broadcasts, newspaper front pages, online articles, airport screens. The internet had spent years trying to convince people that Luka was dangerous. Now the entire world was looking for him. After the murder of June Lin, the search for Luka Magnotta became global almost overnight. Authorities believed he had already fled Canada. And within days, sightings of Luka began appearing across multiple countries. News stations broadcast his face constantly while online communities continued tracking every possible lead. By this point, the case had completely merged with the internet. Thousands of people followed the manhunt in real time, refreshing forums and news websites for updates every few minutes. And strangely, Luka seemed to enjoy the spectacle. Investigators later discovered that while he was fleeing internationally, he was still searching his own name online and reading articles about himself. Some reports even suggested he continued monitoring the internet communities that had spent years hunting him. After obsessing over fame for most of his life, Luka had finally achieved it, but in the worst possible way. After leaving Montreal, Luka traveled through Europe using fake identities and stolen documents. Authorities eventually traced him to Paris, where surveillance footage captured him moving through airports and hotels, while international police agencies tried to piece together his movements. But despite the growing media coverage, he kept slipping away. For a while, it genuinely looked possible that he might disappear. Then, on June 4th, 2012, everything came to an end in Berlin. Inside a small internet cafe, Luka Magnotta was reportedly sitting alone at a computer, reading news coverage about himself. According to multiple reports, employees and customers recognized him from the international broadcasts that had flooded television and newspapers for days. His face had become one of the most recognizable in the world. And the detail almost sounds fictional. The man who spent years desperately chasing internet fame was almost caught while searching for stories about himself online. Berlin police were called immediately. officers entered the cafe and arrested Luka without major resistance. After years of manipulation, fake identities, online performances, and international headlines, the manhunt ended quietly inside a small internet cafe thousands of kilometers away from where the investigation first began. But even after his arrest, the story continued shocking people around the world. As investigators dug deeper into Luka's digital footprint, they uncovered years of fake personas, fabricated stories, manipulated discussions, and obsessive attempts to create attention online. The internet communities that had tracked him for years realized something disturbing. Many of them had unknowingly been interacting directly with Luka the entire time. In some cases, fake accounts linked to him had allegedly entered discussion threads, pretending to be supporters, critics, or random observers. He appeared to enjoy manipulating the people investigating him, turning the internet itself into part of the performance. And in a strange way, that may be why this case became so infamous. This wasn't just the story of a murderer. It was one of the first major crimes shaped almost entirely by the modern internet. Social media, online forums, viral videos, anonymous investigations, digital identities, all of it became part of the case itself. Long before true crime exploded across TikTok and YouTube, the Luka Magnotta investigation showed how the internet could transform ordinary strangers into investigators capable of tracking someone across the world. But it also revealed something darker. The internet didn't just help expose Luka Magnotta, it also gave him exactly what he wanted: attention. For years, he failed to become famous through modeling, television appearances, and fake online personas. But through fear, violence, and manipulation, he finally forced the entire world to learn his name. In 2014, Luka Magnotta was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. The case officially ended there. But the internet never really forgot it. Even today, the story remains one of the most disturbing examples of how obsession, online identity, and the pursuit of notoriety can spiral into something catastrophic. And more than a decade later, people still return to the same question that haunted the internet investigators from the very beginning. What happens when someone becomes completely consumed by the need to be seen? In the years since Luka Magnotta was arrested, the internet has changed completely. Today, online investigations happen constantly. People track criminals through TikTok videos, identify locations from reflections in mirrors, and solve mysteries using nothing but public information and social media posts. What once sounded impossible has become normal. But long before any of that became mainstream, the Luka Magnotta case showed just how powerful and dangerous the internet could be. Because this story was never only about murder, it was about attention. For years, Luka tried to become famous through modeling, reality television, fake online personas, and carefully constructed lies. None of it worked. But the moment fear entered the equation, the entire world suddenly started watching. And that may be the most disturbing part of this case. The internet communities hunting Luka believed they were trying to stop a dangerous person before things escalated further. In many ways, they were right. They recognized the warning signs long before authorities took them seriously. But at the same time, every repost, every discussion thread, and every article also helped turn Luka into exactly what he always wanted to become: someone impossible to ignore. The internet exposed him, but it also amplified him, and more than a decade later, that same cycle still exists online. Algorithms reward outrage. Attention spreads faster than truth. And for certain people, notoriety becomes just as valuable as fame. That's why the Luka Magnotta case still feels so unsettling today. Because it didn't just predict the future of internet investigations, it predicted the future of the internet itself.